What happens when the voice inside your head isn't your own? In the quiet farming town of Red Hollow, Ohio, 28-year-old Thomas Greaves was known as a quiet, hard-working man. He worked at a feed store. He helped his elderly neighbor with her groceries. No criminal record, no history of violence. Until one day, he walked into a police station, covered in blood, and said just 6 chilling words. "The voices told me to do it." That was the beginning of one of the most disturbing murder cases in modern American history. What the police uncovered in the days that followed would horrify even the most seasoned investigators. But the deeper they dug, the more questions arose. Was Thomas insane or possessed? Or was he part of something far darker? Let's start at the beginning. Thomas lived alone in a weathered farmhouse inherited from his grandfather. According to his co-workers, he'd become distant weeks before the incident. He spoke of things moving at night, said he could hear footsteps in the walls, and most disturbingly, he claimed a disembodied voice would whisper to him while he slept. He told a friend that the voice knew everything about him, his thoughts, his past, his fears, told him that his life was a lie, that his family wasn't real, that the only way to wake up was to spill blood. On March 9, 2022, police responded to a 911 call from a neighbor reporting screams from Thomas's property. When they arrived, they found 3 victims: Thomas's childhood friend, David Mercer, his mother, Karen Greaves, and a local pastor, Reverend Jonah Blake, all murdered with a level of brutality described by officers as ritualistic. Symbols drawn in blood, objects arranged in a perfect circle, and in the center a tape recorder. On the tape, Thomas's voice, in a calm, trance-like tone. They said the world must be balanced, that light is a lie, that I was chosen, and now, I see. He was arrested at the scene without resistance. But what happened next deepened the mystery. During his psychiatric evaluation, Thomas claimed he wasn't hearing voices in his head, but through the walls of his home. He believed the house had a second frequency only he could hear. And then, he said this: they weren't ghosts, they weren't demons, they were something older, something that lives between our seconds. When asked to explain what that meant, he simply smiled and said, "Soon, they'll speak to all of you." Now here's where it turns from disturbing to unexplainable. Investigators searching his house found a hidden crawlspace behind the fireplace. Inside were dozens of old reel tapes labeled in handwriting that didn't match Thomas's. Some dated back to the 1950s. One tape, titled "They Whisper First at Night," contained a voice that analysts said couldn't be matched to any human sample. It spoke in multiple tones at once, layered frequencies, and a language no one could identify. When an audio engineer tried to clean up the tape, the equipment began to malfunction. Screens glitched, files vanished, and electrical surges fried multiple hard drives. The engineer later reported nightmares for weeks, claiming he could still hear the voice under the static. Even more chilling, a local archivist uncovered a report from 1954 describing a family who once lived in the same farmhouse. They too claimed to hear voices. They too began drawing symbols. And in the end, they too vanished. No bodies were ever found, just blood on the walls and a single tape recorder. The town buried the story, called it mass hysteria, until Thomas brought it all back. To this day, Thomas sits in a maximum security psychiatric facility. He rarely speaks, but when he does, it's always the same phrase: "They're awake now." So the question is this: was Thomas mentally ill? Or was he the final link in a chain stretching back decades, maybe centuries? Is it possible that certain places aren't just haunted, but act as antennas for something else? Something ancient, something intelligent, and most terrifying of all, what if the voices weren't lying? Let us know what you believe in the comments. Schizophrenia? Demonic possession? Government experiment? Or something even worse, a reality we refuse to see?